Hello, my name is Michael Randolph. Tonight's discussion is reducing street violence, a national approach. Before we get into the program, I want to give thanks to those that have signed up to participate in tonight's presentation. Starting with the federal level, that's the Department of Housing and Human Development, Department of Health and Human Services, the Network for Developing Community of Conscience, which is an organization that focuses on economic development, the Department of Justice. Locally, I want to thank the Chief of Police and her team. I also want to thank the Tampa Housing Authority Public Safety Division. And I want to thank both representatives from the Tampa City Council as well as the St. Pete City Council. In addition, I want to thank those who are from out of state: New York, Philly, New Jersey, Baltimore, Chicago, Mississippi, West Tampa, South Carolina, and Texas for participating in on this meeting. I know as the meeting goes on, there's going to be more states to add on. So that being said, let's get started. Tonight's presentation is talking about a national approach to reducing street violence. It looks at combining street health, public safety, and economic development into one synthesized strategy. We know that health affects economics, and economics affects public safety, and public safety affects health, and health affects economic development. In other words, each of these major components rely on each other. That's why we're saying connecting the dot to create a safe and healthy community. At the end of the day, we are about people, place, and things. We know in most communities, the focus is on place and things. Moving from distress to success. We maintain that poor planning equals gentrification, and smart planning equals transformation of residents. We believe in people by planning smart. That is, connect the dots to transforming people in neighborhoods and reduce gentrification. Over the years, we've gotten input from the West Tampa community from 2003 up into 2022. So for those of you who are from out of state, again, this is West Tampa. I want to give you some information about West Tampa related to its demographic. In West Tampa, there's over 9,000 people that live in West Tampa and 3,400 households, 70% which are rental units. 2/3 of the areas are Blacks, 25% white, and about 1/5 as Hispanic. The median income is just under $19,000 compared to the citywide number of $43,000. Here is the boundaries for the West Tampa community, our boundaries for the West Tampa CDC boundaries. We include Census Tract 43, 44, and 45, 50, 49, and 48. The leadership for the West Tampa CDC is Dr. Marcus Fisher and Joe Robinson. Dr. Fisher serves as chairperson and Joe Robinson serves as vice chair. The model that we're going to talk about borrows heavy from programs from the model city to community building and partnership was the first comprehensive initiative by a public and private entity to the HUD Federal Empowerment Zone to promise neighborhoods and choice neighborhoods. So this approach builds on all of those schools of thoughts. We respond to the problem using a systematic, programmatic, and strategic model that provides community with the tools to rebuild their community. And we do this in a bottom-up approach that is resident-driven and is result-oriented. We look at the change through different views, from the Green Party to the Democratic Party to the Libertarian Party to the Republican Party. In other words, we look at different perspectives and put together the ultimate strategy. And we are generational. We focus on individual generations in order to create the desired result. In terms of scope, the West Tampa CDC uses a holistic, comprehensive, and integrated approach to creating, transforming the community. The methodology used is a community mapping access building strategy that synthesizes 3 community disciplines: neighborhood planning, community organizing, and economic development. The assets mapping is for the purpose of creating a more healthier community where the dial stays in the community. We'll talk more about this when we talk about one of the programs that we will be bringing out. How does the model look? Well, the West Tampa Community Development Corporation started in 1999. It was brought about because of residents and community shareholders that felt that the community was not getting the needed recognition in order to make it, to change the negative indicators. We talked about those negative indicators earlier. As a result of that, they then incorporated and started what's known as the West Tampa Community Development Corporation. This particular corporation is a resident-driven model. The West Tampa CDC then, in order to carry out the mission and the vision that's been set out by the community, partners with other nonprofits, the government, private sector, institutions of higher learning, the faith community, politicians, and others, to create a holistic approach related to strategies that looks at the economic, social, and physical well-being of the community. As you can see, over the years, we have amassed a lot of partnership. Some of those people are still around, some are not. We didn't have time to list the new partners that we brought on board. So the first part of the strategy is economic development. Economic development looks at commercial revitalization. The second part of that is labor force development. How do we look at our current labor force with all of the barriers to create and retool that population in order to in order to increase that quality of life. And then social entrepreneurship has to do, how do we sustain ourselves by starting businesses in order to create different revenues, different streams of income for sustainability. Social development has to do with community building, making sure that the community is empowered and continues to control the process, health, the environment, public safety, and youth, as well as social service. In other words, social development deals with everything pertaining to people, including senior teachers, senior citizens, education, etc. Physical development has to do with affordable housing, commercial development, transportation, land use, as well as infrastructure, neighborhood conditions. The West Tampa CDC approach to bringing in income, the model we use is what's known as a social entrepreneurship model. There are 3 legs to the model. Keep in mind that the focus of this model is to use the earned income that we're trying to go after. It's going to be used to pursue social objectives by simultaneously seeking both financial and social return on our investment. How do we do that? Well, one leg is input. That includes how do we bring in revenue from grants and social media, fee for services, development fees, consulting fee, own and operating our own businesses, into also investment into financial securities. The second part of the strategy has to do with output. The output includes creating employment programs, public safety, youth programs, community building, affordable housing, etc. The outcome from that includes increasing employment in the community, increasing affordable housing, a reduction in crime, improve the quality of life. And the benefits is, for the city, is an increased tax base, and we're going to talk about how we are creating resident-owned businesses. It also includes a reduction in requiring cities, and it also includes a reduction in requiring city services, for example, public safety. Because it's a reduction in crime, it reduces the city overall money spent in West Tampa. It's also a reduction in risk for lenders because we're looking at changing the narrative in West Tampa to a healthy, safe community. For investors, it's a higher return on your investment because it's an increase that the business will be successful in West Tampa. Current projects. The Rome Yard project in West Tampa, for those of you who are joining us from around the country, is what I consider to be a best practice in reducing gentrification. It was a partnership with lenders, developers, the city, and the community. As a result of that particular deal, and we do want to give a shout out to the mayor of Tampa, who made sure that she created a group of people to oversee who will get the project called Rome Yard. Let me back up for 1 second. Rome Yard is an area in Tampa that was owned by the city. It was a large area. And the city wanted to get it developed. It definitely wanted to also make sure that development include affordable housing. So it put out for bid to see what bidder will be the one that has the best bid that meets the city's requirement. And the mayor made sure that she included the community. As a matter of fact, one of the participants on that body that looked at and graded on who would win that deal was the members from the CAC. At that time, it was Joe Robinson, who was, I think, then the president of the CAC. Anyway, why I'm emphasizing this? Because this is a best practice. It shows how, when you bring the different major players together, you can reduce gentrification, increase individual wealth, and increase public safety. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about how that looks when we get to the West Tampa Technology, Wealth Building, and Job Creation Initiative later on in the presentation. But I did want to just emphasize the Rome Yard project is a national, it should be a national formula on how to really begin to change the narrative in neighborhood transformation. Now the city of Tampa is, this whole benefit for Rome Yard is what's called as a community benefit agreement. The community benefit agreement is what is the benefit that the community gets. The city of Tampa is about to pass a citywide community benefit agreement that could change the narrative in the city of Tampa and bring in much needed dollars to supplement monies that the city has in terms of transforming the community. The other update we want to talk about is with the Federal Department of Transportation, a potential partnership in which we can see possibly over 100 jobs, well-paying jobs in the next 5 years. The West Tampa Technology and Wealth Building Center, I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later. Do want to emphasize that in West Tampa, there's a lot of resources for residents. You have what's known as the West Tampa CAC, which is under the city CRA. That information, some of the things that they're giving is grants for businesses, commercial development, for residents, for neighborhood groups, and much more other activities. The initiative that we're going to talk about tonight is the West Tampa Public Safety Initiative, social/economical approach to reducing crime. It is a bottom-up approach that empowers the at-risk, that is those at risk of killing or being killed, to design, develop, and implement its own vision. Over the last years, probably 10 years, we have gathered data from focus groups that include youth, businesses, senior citizens, those with substance abuse issues, individuals with no income to a lot of income, those with criminal records, and those with limited skills, as well as residents in general, to gauge from them as to where they want to see the community in 5 years. This strategy responds to the public safety side. 2 key elements of our public safety strategy is mental health and substance abuse. It's not the only ones, but they are the 2 elephants in the room when you're talking about reducing crime. The strategy that we use is a 3-pronged strategy to public safety: prevention, deterrence, and intervention. All of these are being addressed in what we call the West Tampa Technology, Wealth Building, and Job Creation Initiative. This initiative is a response to both gentrification and systemic racism that has played a part in, and this is based on a study that was done by the Hillsborough County Commission in Tampa, Florida. They found that in areas like West Tampa, there was systemic racism. So this addressed those issues as well. Again, this partnership is with the Center for Nonprofit Community Development in the West Tampa CDC. So let's talk about it. It is a nationwide approach to reduce gentrification and increase public safety. What does it look like within the next 5 years? Well, we're looking at between 50 to 70 new resident-owned businesses. That's conservatively. We're talking about, as a result of that, anywhere between 75 to 100 new jobs created because of these new businesses that were created. We also are looking at between 200 to 500 residents that's going to benefit from our technology center training. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. So what are the key goals? What is the objective based on all of those conversations with the community? Well, the first goal is to reduce gentrification by improving the workforce. The second is to enhance public safety by using an economic development approach. The next approach is to create opportunities for residents to own their own business. The other approach is to create community wealth, increase technology opportunity for residents, and to narrow the digital divide. The first piece of the technology center is what we call the first piece of the three-piece technology job creation and job creation center is technology. The technology center looks at creating opportunities for residents in West Tampa to benefit from all of these different skill sets based on a relationship with the tech community. We know that jobs of the future are not going to include regular manual work. For example, service workers, we can see that in the supermarket. When you go to the supermarket, you're now seeing people self-checkout. In the construction field, as they begin to put together 3D houses, that's going to reduce the number of people in the workforce for construction. That's a major contribution towards the economy. We see it, that's why we're looking at providing technology. We also want to increase the number of minorities that are going to STEM and reduce the digital divide. One of the other major things we want to do is performing art and production center, and include all of these different elements here. The strategy is used to attract those at risk into being part of an art center, video production, and entertainment center, all those different things that we know that will attract the at risk. And that's part of our transformation process. The Business Development and Business Virtual Incubator Center. We strongly believe that residents need to own their own business. In that respect, we're looking at creating between 50 to 120 own new businesses over the next 3 to 5 years. That number has gone up from our earlier number that we quoted earlier in the presentation. That's going to create anywhere from 75 to 150 jobs. We're using a combined technology, e-commerce, and social media approach that lead to job creation including home-based businesses. These are some of the components related to our technology e-commerce center. That includes people learning how to do drop shopping and those other ways of online stores. We believe the average person with limited skill sets, and that's very popular, can create a store online and bring in revenue. That's only some of it. We're talking about using social media to increase the narrative, including senior citizens, open the doorway for them to have their own business to increase income, be it anywhere from baking cakes to doing decoration as part of their own business and bringing additional income. This is going to affect those with criminal records, the disabled, all those individuals will be able to create a different source, especially those with criminal records. The home-based businesses are going to include any and all of these different types of businesses, but it's not limited to it. I didn't have enough space to list everything. Well, the most important component of this to me is the Community Wealth Center and moving residents from a consumer mentality to an investor mentality, learning them how not to be consumers and how to invest their money to make money. This will be one of the few communities that's focused on this as economic development to change the narrative when it comes to debt. We plan to bring in dollars for the initiative by way of from technology. Well, each component project will have its own startup funding and its own source of where we plan to get the money from in order to make it happen. Again, this is just the seed money used to bring about this particular initiative. In addition to that, we're also looking in 2023 at going for additional funding from each of these different funders that you see here. We probably begin to build a relationship with most of them that know what we're doing. We think that most of these funds will come for our business development center and creating new businesses, as well as having to do with affordable housing. Investment in the community. Our strategy focuses on making sure that money stays into the community. Every person that invests into the CDC, the money stays into the community and recirculate in the community. Because of our strategy in reducing crime and our strategy in terms of increasing a sense of safety, increasing business opportunity, we think that we can have a 10 to 20% return on people's investment. For the city, for example, that invests money into the CDC, the return on the investment includes increasing job opportunities, it includes affordable housing, it includes a reduction in crime, and that list can go on and on and on. So for anybody that invests, that return on your investment is anywhere from 10 to 15%. The final element, and we think this is probably one of the most important in rebuilding neighborhoods, is making sure everyone that benefits from the service of the CDC gets back to the community in terms of social community volunteering, some amount of time back to the community because of the resource they receive from the community. That can be anywhere from being a tutor to working with seniors, and the list can go on and on and on. We call it investment in the community. Our next steps, well, there's a lot of things, next steps that we plan to do. Most importantly, I want to note that the updated strategic and operational plan, that plan is going to change from 2021 to 2025. Our next approach will be going directly to the community with the update strategy and the update approach. We want to thank everybody for taking part. We hope that this has benefited you. We challenge you, if you're from another community, another state, and if you want to also create change by controlling the process, then email us at the Center for email us at westtampacdc@gmail.com so you can learn what you can do in your community. Not only how to build from within, but also to reduce the level of violence in the community.